Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the last session of the day. We had very interesting 2 days from yesterday to now, and we have covered many interesting topics. And many experts and panelists have shared their opinions on very challenging and important subjects for the industry. And here now we are at the last session of today. We have Dr. Paresh Karia. He's a very important personality of the industry and has spent many years in the industry. He's the director of PAPL now, and he has nearly 3 decades of diverse experience in the vertical transportation industry with Otis, beginning his career as a service engineer working closely with equipment and later progressing on to management position in India, Thailand, and Asia Pacific region. He had a distinction of working on the Statue of Unity, the world's tallest statue, before it had been executed. Passionate about developing programs that bridge the gap between elevator companies and customer requirement, he has helped put together modules on elevator escalator service quality and management. Dr. Karev, very warm welcome to you. And I'm very sure that this important topic, which is mergers and acquisitions in BT industry, is today, like we were talking some time back, is a very small, portion of the business now. But I'm sure in the future this would really grow. So I'm sure your point of view will be most welcome by a lot of people who will be hearing you now or even at a later date. So over to you, sir.
Thank you, Anita, for kind and nice introduction. And again, thank you to all of you listening this program and warm welcome. And I just set my presentation and we start the input. So just let me share the slides. Okay, slides I think visible. Okay.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay. So merger and acquisition in our industry. Okay, so first let me start with the basic that just to clarify what is merger and acquisition, right? Basically, it's simple. You acquire the asset and you try to merge it, right? So, and basically, the objective here is to grow the business. That's why you go for a merger and acquisition, right? So basically, mergers and acquisitions are act of consolidating company or asset with a very clear objective to grow, get the competitive advantage. You want to increase your segment of share in the market, and many times you acquire the company to influence the supply chain, right? So this is the basics in our industry when we go for M&A. See, merger and acquisition in our industry, vertical transportation, is different than other industry. I will tell you, I read many newspaper or I get media flashes that Apple is acquiring one company every 3 weeks, right? But ours is not Apple or ours is not IT software, right? Ours is a different business, right? Because elevator industry, if you ask me, is made up of hundreds of, not thousands, but hundreds of small elevator companies, and they operate locally. And if you ask me about customer in our business, every building owner is a different customer. So this particular topic M&A is somewhat different than the standard M&A which we study in our management programs. This is a different management program for a vertical transportation business, right? M&A. Everybody knows that how is our business, right? It has a long product life, vertical integration, long cycle time, many customers, and it has a long relationship. Once you sell an elevator escalator, the relationship lasts long, right? Our business is labor intensive, not capital intensive, right? And everybody knows that our business starts with a small inquiry, converted into proposal, and then hardcore negotiation, finalizing technical specification, and then it goes to order backlog because that order has to wait till the time building gets ready, right? And once building gets ready, you supply elevator materials and installation and commissioning. And once people start using elevator escalator, the service business starts, right? Wherein we regularly maintain, repair, modernize, and over a period we replace the complete elevator escalator. So ours is a different business, and M&A needs the the minute detailing once we want to take M&A as a part of our business strategy, right? Now coming to what is a current M&A picture in the context of India, I'm talking right now. So in the context of India, we have not done much in this area. Very few, M&A activity happened in last 5 years. And especially during Corona period and the new normal, it is almost standstill. But let me tell you that it has a lot of potential. If we really take this M&A as a part of the business growth strategy, it has a lot of potential, and it can pay back in a faster growth, organic plus, I can say, inorganic growth. And that is what is the power of M&A in the context of our country. If you ask me my experience, I think I worked in this business development into bracket M&A almost 12 years out of my 29 years career. So 12 years I worked, and I have seen, when I used to, visit Europe, many companies in Europe, they complete several acquisitions of an independent elevator service company every year, and they expand their service business. And it's not only maintenance business followed by repair and modernization, and then finally complete replacement. So it is a potential. India, in the context of India, we have this, pent-up demand. We need to capitalize over a period. And I'm sure, I think our vertical transportation industry will take the best practices from this presentation also, and from other companies to size the opportunity. If you ask M&A in our segment, elevator escalator business, it is classified into two parts. Number one, small and medium acquisition, and larger standalone business, right? Small and medium acquisition here, basically you purchase the asset, right? Which is a service portfolio or a maintenance contract. This is a small and medium M&A. But larger standalone business, here you acquire, equity, partnership, or you also explore the joint venture as a business model. And when you go for a larger standalone business, you sometimes merge the company, or you have another objective to keep this as a tier 2 brand, right? Basically to, capture the demand of low cost and alternative product in some geographies and some equipment needs, right? End of the day, you want to increase your segment of share in that particular product segment, right? So there are two classified M&A in our business. Now, today's agenda in the presentation, we are going to talk on, the 5 areas. Number one, what are the value creation motivators for M&A? Second is, what are the challenges of M&A in our industry? Important guidelines for M&A in our industry. Then strategic input, the M&A priorities, going forward in VHT industry. And then finally, the critical points of M&A to be part of your checklist. And we'll conclude the presentation followed by Q&A. So item 1, value creation motivators for M&A. See, if I'm a big company, I have my own motivation to acquire the company. So in the context of big company, the value creation motivators, the first one is to, increase the service business, wherein I will go and buy the small independent service provider, and I will try to merge it. Definitely, as a big company, I will ensure that the service portfolio I'm buying is a good fit and it is complementary to each other. That is the first, motivation to the big company. Sometimes big company want to have a tier 2 brand, and that is why they acquire the mid-size company or some bigger company. And especially if you want to solve the price sensitive market and capture their segment of share, right? So there are two big motivation for a big company when they go for acquiring outside, right? If you ask me in the context of a small and mid-sized companies, basically the context is their selling purpose, right? Or their partnership purpose. So number one motivation, this small or mid-sized company want to, partner with the big players, right? To enhance their brand name or to enhance their, value to their customer. So partnership with big players, many times in this small or mid-sized company, next generation is not interested to continue this business. And there is a compulsion. And I have many, assignments in my, practice right now. The majority comes in this category that I am going, getting aged, and please support me. If there is a good buyer, let me know, right? So next generation is not interested. And that is why this sell happens. Even the pain point of this small and mid-sized company is the cash flow. Cash flow in the sense that their account receivable issues, their working capital problems, and then if they want to, expand, they cannot because they don't have enough working capital to, update with the technology and the resources. Right? So that is also the point here of a motivation to get rid of the existing business, right? And many times, if you give a better valuation, attractive valuation, these people get ready. He said, yeah, I will not earn in this next 25 years. That amount is motivating, and they get ready to sell the business, right? So value creation motivators are different for big companies and the small and mid-sized companies. We must know this ball game. Our agenda item number 2 of the talk is what are the challenges in M&A in the context of our industry, right? And I always see these challenges as the process improvement. See, the challenges in M&A, the first, my experience, I'll tell you, if you want to acquire somebody, even though you establish the contact, you sign the non-disclosure agreement, means you will be, keeping everything confidential, but it takes its own sweet time to build the rapport. You don't get data, faster from the selling company because they need time to digest. They need time to trust you. And first and foremost is getting data, even though you signed the non-disclosure agreement. Now, a couple of challenges, I would like to share. Number 1, top 3. First is difficult to do a proper standalone valuation to determine the valuation range. Let me be, honest. I am also approved valuer. I have done this certification. I know, but here in our industry, valuation is a tough task, right? And once you start talking, and they start presenting their business, you find turnover is handsome, very good turnover. But once you start collecting data, you realize that 80% of their revenue is coming from new elevator business. And you are also a mid-size or a big-size company. You know your products are better. So you are not much interested to buy their product or a manufacturing. You are interested in a service portfolio. But here this small or mid-sized company who also want to grab the attention that my business is very good, So revenue 80% of new elevator contracts and 20% of maintenance contract. I think this push in a corner to, put a good valuation on the table and start, motivating the seller. Many times or majority of times when you acquire small company, you find their service contract revenue per unit is very low, which is also a pain to, on the future revenue from this service contract. And account receivable sometimes is an issue. They don't make some provision of bad debt or write-off. Even safety upgrades is a pain point. Like you are acquiring a service business portfolio, you realize during your inspection and audits that there are a lot of safety gaps at par with the compliance, right? Minimum compliance. And you have to make provision to upgrade these units if you are buying it. So this is also the challenge, right? In general, if you consider in the context of finance and legal, the specific reps and warranties on intellectual property, tax compliances, HR compliances, this comes out during the discussion and the due diligence, and it becomes a challenge to resolve. Many times the critical decision, if you are acquiring companies, warehouse and factory and entire portfolio, the safety and quality comes number 1 and number 2 challenge. So keep in mind, because this challenge you have to work upon. It's part of our business strategy, right, to acquire the company. Challenge number 2, in a high-stake business of M&A, the biggest challenge is integration. You get success, partner, the seller sells you, everything happens, but integration must be successful. If you start losing the service contracts after acquiring, customer complaint, increases, then I don't think it's a successful M&A. So very important strategy to fix these challenges is the integration model or integration plan. Challenge number 3, sometimes, the lack of proper due diligence. We do due diligence before buying the service portfolio or factory or entire portfolio, right? But a couple of points in due diligence I want to highlight. Number 1 is a related party relationship. You don't know who is nearer and dearer in the buying company, and you have to pay the price later. So related party transaction is, and the relationship matters a lot. Non-compete and no solicitation clause must be there in the final agreement with the seller. Indemnification must be there part of your final agreement, because they need to settle any outstanding dues and liabilities prior to the business transfer. And majority of time I find that the key employee of a selling company, they don't have a formal employment contract. So this must come out during due diligence. If it is not coming, you need to go into further detail. I always tell my team when we go for due diligence, my dialogue is very standard: OAD, obsessive attention for detail. Obsessive attention for detail, because this is a very, very crucial part, the due diligence. Otherwise, it becomes a challenge of your M&A strategy. Our third point, which is very interesting, just to give you the important checklist and guideline M&A, and this is based on my experience, right? So I always share with my team that 1 to 6 is a non-negotiable. When you go for M&A, non-negotiable number 1, complete confidentiality. Nobody should know, and even we give a name of our project, totally different. We give a name like cat and peacock and all. Nobody can understand what we are talking, right? Complete confidentiality. Strategy and communication must be there from both the side, that how we want to progress. Both the side must be ready for operational adjustments if you are going for M&A, right? Opinion and review matters a lot when you go for M&A, because consultant, your seniors, even the selling company, key personnel, their opinions and reviews matters a lot, and it is non-negotiable. You need to consider. Time and patience, everybody understand. Everything written. So record and reference points matters a lot in M&A. So these are the 6 important points, non-negotiable, one must keep in mind. Now, a couple of guidelines in M&A. Acquisition process starts with lead. So first step of your M&A journey, you must have a pipeline. And pipeline starts with the interesting people who, they want to sell their business. And you have to generate the leads from various sources, even your branch offices, even your outside third-party consultant. They also give you the lead that these are the company you can explore. Even sometimes you contact the small company or mid-sized company informally, chat with them. But very important guideline is that there must be a process to have a pipeline for M&A. If you don't have any lead and pipeline process, I think you are not in the M&A strategy. So this is the first guideline. If possible in M&A, try all the acquisition to be completed in-house. Why I insist, it's a confidential business. You do take third-party support or a consultant support, but you need to have a small in-house team of the M&A head, legal, finance, your senior boardroom members, right? This team is important, and if possible, do it in-house. Don't, and again, very important, don't work in silos, because legal work in silos and finance work in silos, then I don't think you will get the, the true benefit of the M&A. So do it in-house, don't work in silos, do take outside, consulting support, but focus on your teamwork to acquire the company. Another guideline, if you are inquiring the independent service providers, I think I prefer, only asset deals. Asset deals means only service contracts. And I insist the seller to, shut down their factory. And basically the small company, their factory is not the typical factory. It is a small warehouse where they outsource and assemble, and it's not a big type of a factory. So here I prefer asset deal only contracts. That's my guideline. This M&A guideline, again, interesting part is you need to meet once in a week. Once you are very serious about the deal or you are progressing the deal to sign off, then weekly meetings matters a lot. And this meeting review gives you the gaps. And these gaps you need to work upon. Otherwise, it becomes a big problems, right? So weekly meeting is the part of the guideline. Attitude. This is also an important guideline on in M&A. Attitude matters a lot from both the side, buyers and sellers, right? And if you ask me, engaging the seller's employee and buyer's key people is must. And here attitude matters a lot. We need to fine tune that. Before the merger closes, the first day is very important. We always typically say it is a D day, and we are always ready with 90 days plan when we acquire any company. And this 90 days plan is very comprehensive. We ensure that we follow every checklist, checkpoints of this 90-day plan. But day one is very, very important. Why? It is basically the impression, in the company which is selling you. So make sure that no one shows up to the work without knowing exactly what to do on the first day. Their uniform and their safety compliances, everything must be checked and visible, right? So these are the couple of guidelines, and very interesting guidelines in M&A when you are acquiring a family-owned business. Top three, you need to ensure that the selling party, their family members, placed in a separate chains of command post acquiring this entity. You need to ensure that key employees enter into non-compete agreement with us, allowed by law, and I think in India it allows, right? So otherwise you are challenging yourself if you don't sign off, right? And proper non-compete of minimum 5 years signed with the family members, because you are paying a very good money, and you should not feel that these people, after a couple of months you see them in a different business which is similar to our business, right? So these are the important guidelines in M&A. One cannot ignore it. This is based on the experience, and we have tested the challenges here. Our item number 4, M&A priorities going forward. I think this is interesting input for a road ahead. And in the context of India, we have a lot of opportunity for this M&A as a part of business strategy. So point number 1 on priorities going forward, M&A, consider M&A as a part of your business growth plan. I always tell, if you are a professional company, you want to grow, you want to be top 5 in terms of segment of share, then I think M&A is part of your business strategy, right? It is part of your long-term growth strategy, and you must ensure that you have enough capex to invest and buy the company, right? And ensure that you are focused for the long-term investment, right? So this is the point number 1. It should be part of your growth plan. Point number 2, priorities going forward. Very interesting that several key questions needs to be answered by your team, reviewed and answered. And top 4 question, I don't want to ignore, but these are the important 4 questions. Question number 1, what are the key opportunities for my company in this market? Key opportunities in terms of increasing your service business growth, increasing your new equipment growth, increasing your repair and modernization and replacement growth. This is a very important question. And if you have a good pipeline and the target, you do the enough data analysis and then take the decision, right, to start the journey. Question number 2, what are the essential key features of acquiring company? See, I always believe in my marketing journey, 2 things, POP and POD, point of parity and point of difference, right? So when you are acquiring some company, what are their unique selling point? What are their strength? How I can, use that strength to, build up my company's growth, right? So lot of brainstorming, lot of, data points here, essential, right? Before you acquire the company. Question number 3, how can company proactively leverage M&A advantage? See, many times I'll tell you to grow business in India, and I always say India itself is a multinational country. We have many states and union territory, right? And I'm sure that no company, blame that I'm in every part of India. And now tier 2, tier 3 cities, the growth is also there. So here, how can my company proactively take advantage of this merger and acquisitions? Am I acquiring in a remote place and where I don't have, presence of a single unit? So, you acquire and then you quickly start the business. So a couple of points. This is a small example. What are the policies required and how quickly and effectively can we implement them? See, every M&A in the company needs a policy, right? Policy of approval, policy of gathering the data, confidentiality, lot of things. You must have M&A policies, comprehensive policies, followed by the strong processes. So priorities going forward, the key question needs to be reviewed. Point number 3, pipeline. I was telling you, the pipeline matters a lot. Your homework, your connect matters a lot. So you need to have, identify all the ISP, that small and mid-sized company active in the market. Then this list, you prioritize the approach by geography or by age of owner or a business profile. And reach out to this addressable, interested ISPs or a mid-sized company and start your journey of talking to them. And maybe they are interested, you sign the non-disclosure agreement, right? And many times you can use M&A consultant. I'm in front of you. I'm very active in merger and acquisition in our business also, vertical transportation industry. So you can use M&A consultants also, right? And ensure that you engage interested targets into M&A process. Here, talking is very important. If you talk today and then you forget for 2 months, then I don't think you are serious about M&A process, right? So build a strong pipeline, act on it. Point number 4, decide on integration model and merge into the company, or sometimes you want to keep it a separate, right? There are 2 objectives, right? You want to merge it or you want to keep it as a tier 2 brand. But 3 points, I think, decide on that company presence in this region via branch, targeted brand awareness, reach and reputation, quality of business relationship established between target staffs and customers. These 3 points are very important when you decide on an integration model, whether you want to merge it or you want to keep it standalone like tier 2 brand. Now, point number 5 on our M&A, that what are the strategic inputs? Now, these strategic inputs will help you to build the skillful plan, because I always define strategy. Strategy is nothing, is an integration of skillful plan to achieve your objectives or a goal. So this is going to help you to build your skillful plans. First and very important, strategic input is start with end in mind. Start with end in mind. What type of acquisition you want? You want to buy asset, or you want to buy equity, or you want to go for a joint venture, or you want to go for a full integration, or you want to keep this buying entity as a standalone tier 2 brand. Suppose you want to go for a full integration, make sure that what will be the effect on your company brand, because now this will be part of your company portfolio, right? Service portfolio. Billing will happen under your company brand. So effect on company brand when you go for a complete integration. Suppose you say standalone, okay, keep that as a acquiring entity separate as it is, or you want to give us tier 2 brand and you want to explore this company from one region to other region in the country, or maybe expand outside India also. So tier 2 brand or a second brand strategy. So one must be very clear that what we want out of the M&A. So start with end in mind is a basic, skillful plan we have to prepare. We were talking about, standalone versus full integration. Just to share the detail that there are pros and cons for standalone and the full integration. If you go for a standalone, the pros, like you get the fighter brand, right? And it fights in the market, get you the price sensitive contracts. Same risk of portfolio loss minimized because it is on a mid-size price market or a price sensitive market. You can retain key employees because they don't feel the big change because they are standalone as it is. And there are a lot of opportunities to increase the service portfolio growth, even modernization growth and repair growth. Some cons or disadvantages, I think you as a buyer, you have to maintain multiple entities and maintain a multiple system. So these are disadvantages for a standalone. Let's say you go for a full integration. So advantages. Anyway, it becomes a single entity, right? For you, it is usual that over a period, it is fully merged, integrated, and it's part of the single entity. No need to reinvest on a back office integration, right? You have already infra resources, so full back office integration. And you can, do the optimization in your field, some manpower or processes, right? So field optimization is also opportunity here when you go for a full integration. Some challenges, disadvantages, I think once you do a full integration, the risk of portfolio loss, because you expect that we are a big company, we need to fetch a better price from a service contract. You lose sometimes the portfolio. A risk of key employee loss because this, the company, their employee don't find the suitable, culture match, and they give up and they quit the company. And margin blending, because it impacts your margin also, because you merged this low margin contract or maybe low value contract, right? So it also impacts your margin side. So M&A standalone versus full integration, the clarity. Now, strategic input, I want to continue. The point here is a culture. Culture is king. You are buying company, right? And the selling company has a different culture. I think first and foremost, you have to ensure that the seller's employee, blend with your culture, because your culture, their buying takes time, right? So culture, acquisition, and integration come together, and culture is king. People can, wait for anything, but I don't wait for selling my culture when I acquire the company. I ensure that our core value, they buy it. Whatever core value, everybody knows that, code of ethics or compliance or safety first, quality first, customer excellence. So culture matters a lot. It's a strategic input, right? When you prepare your first 90 days plan of acquiring company. Valuation I was sharing with you is a challenge sometimes, right? An opportunity also sometimes, right? So when you are paying the price, final price, look into a long-term growth strategy, right? Willingness to reinvest in the company. Sometimes you are buying a company, you have a motivation, and your payback period looks longer, but the target company is quality and the customers are good, then take care, right? This is also part of your planning. Process. Your acquisition process must be robust. Your acquisition process must be robust. And I think today's presentation will help you to recheck your processes also, right? Because you will get many spark classes here to review your processes, right? So acquisition process must be robust, must have a strong acquisition committee and decide, which leads to follow and which leads to reject. You should be very clear. All acquisitions are completed by a dedicated team. Here, ensure that your internal professionals plus outside support of consultant must, right? And they are known to collect, the strategic information and data to ensure that we go in the right direction, right? Very interesting strategic input, and this is a nice input if you really, you seriously considering M&A as a part of your business growth. See, if you bring enough money to the table, you can close the deal successfully. But remember, closing deal is not end of the game. The real game starts integrating the deal, right? And achieving your objectives in a timeline. So integrating the business is more difficult. Closing the deal with a good money on the table, it's okay, you can. But the real success is the integration of this deal. One more input on a strategy. Remember, you buy companies, you don't sell companies, right? In other words, you don't seek a struggling business at a bargaining rates, right? With a goal of, turning them around and selling them to the profit. That's not your business. Your business is buy a quality targeted company, which gives you the benefit. It may take time, right? But you should be very clear that you are buying companies. You are not selling companies, right? And don't trust your instinct also that anyway, these are a sick unit. I will turn around. It takes long time. and sometimes you lose the hope part also there, right? So ensure that you are buying companies, not selling companies, right? And the targeted company must be quality, and prerequisite help ensure that company is in best possible position to assume the service contract held by the previous owners. So this is the strategic input to build your long-term M&A strategy in our industry. Finally, I want to sum up our talk here with an interesting, guideline that what I will attempt to, propose three overcharging principles that are applicable throughout, the various phases and activities of M&A. Process to ensure doing the right deal in the right way. 3 points. Process discipline. You must have a process. If you don't have a complete knowledge, take the help of a consultant. They will help you. It starts with building the pipeline, developing little confidence and rapport, signing the non-disclosure agreement. Over a period, you build up a trust factor, so they start sharing the data, right? And after sharing the data, you give a tentative valuation, right? Then you give a, the tentative letter of intent. It's a long process, right? It's not that day one you meet and next 2 months you close the deal. No, it takes time. So process discipline is must. Prudent decision making. Prudent decision making is lot of risk review and lot of opportunity reviews. The first risk review and then second is opportunity reviews. And you have to make a prudent decision, right? Integrative leadership means the total involvement, the team involvement, no silos, no tomorrow. Things should happen in time. So M&A require a great deal of discipline to avoid costly mistakes. My journey of 10 to 12 years in M&A, I would like to tell you that I followed these top three: process discipline, decision making, and integrative leadership. Right. So finally, couple of points on the conclusion. Having each potential deal scrutinized by your executives, right, without any conflict here and interest, and ensure that you make or break the deal very clearly. Requiring board level approval for certain size, like I remember that if you are buying above certain values, I think you need to involve your top people, your board member also. Insist on a careful comparison with the alternative forms of alliances and entrepreneurship. So whether to go on merging it or a standalone, I think it needs careful consideration. Sticking to the walkaway price instead of fitting the investment thesis. That is what I told you, that we are buying company, we are not selling company, right? And you buy quality deal, right? Don't buy at bargaining price and turn it around. That will not happen, right? And point number 5, establish incentive for a long-term success for acquisition rather than closing the deal itself. I remember, many times I tell the seller also that if this happens, I will give you the incentive. So even the seller, short period of time, ensure that things happens in the right way. Because he is also going to get some incentive of successful integration, right? So even in terms of payment of buying company, we ensure that we keep some incentives. So with this, I just conclude the input session, and I'm open for question answers.
Thank you, Dr. Karya. I can't see any questions here posed by anybody so far.
So, Anita, if there are no questions, I want to share whenever I make this presentation, frequently asked question. This will help the team.
Okay.
So next slide, I will just share with FAQs. Let me share this because this is a new topic, Anita, and the people on other side, I think the exposure will help them on M&A.
Okay.
So top 3 I wanted to share. So number one question: what are the some internal and external factors that prevent prospective transaction from being completed? So you have your M&A, and what are these internal external factors that create an issue? So from an internal point of view, the acquiring organization not doing well. You acquire the company, but you are not, well aligned. Even your company you are buying, but you don't have a, good experience of, acquiring the company. So limited integrating experience. Even the pain point that you buy the company, but you have a long term payback, so your motivation is not too high, because you know that anyway I have acquired the company, but the payback will start after 8 years. So there's also internal challenges. Everybody waits for a time to mature and get the benefit. Price per unit is very low, and that is not motivating the internal team. Internal approval delays sometimes kill the process, and many times longer diligence process on a small and medium transaction compared to the competition, right? So these are the input on an internal side, which really prevent the prospective transaction and get delayed. External factors, mainly through my experience, basically the seller's company customer. The customer slow to the respond to the due diligence questions and documentation requests. This is a main challenge from an external perspective. So this was question number one. Question number two, frequently asked when we talk about M&A in our industry. What are the potential process improvements that could significantly improve the deal speed, or you can say deal velocity, and increase the number of units acquired? Very simple, based on a very long experience of M&A. Very, very important to increase the speed of the deal, develop the trust factor, and you simplify your valuation models. The trust factor means you have to show the intent. You must be very clear and serious that yes, this is the target I am interested in, that is why I approach them, and I'm sincere to try my best to acquire. And this is the intent, and then you can develop the trust factor with the seller. Simplified valuation model means, see, when you are buying small and mid-sized company, they are not big chartered accountant, right? They are not big financial, champions. Even they go and contact the local chartered accountant, right? And the local chartered accountant has his own limitation. But here I suggest that use a very simplified valuation model. See, this seller is interested that how much I'm going to get. They are not interested in multiplication and weightage factor of your valuation model. So make sure that you simplify your valuation model and convince them. So this is my input to improve the speed of M&A in our industry. Question three, very, very frequently asked to me, where there are any unforeseen obstacle preventing the completion of a transaction, uh, maybe on time or at all, which could have avoided or overcome if recognized in advance. So I will share my learning lesson in this question. That learning lesson number one, the stringent, or you can say detailed due diligence. Sometimes you need to take the support of outside inspection agency. Take that, right, for a elevator escalator quality audit and safety audit, right? So due diligence of equipment, due diligence of the finance, due diligence of their HR, many areas you have to do the due diligence, and sometimes you don't have enough resources. Take the outside support, right? Environment, health and safety, and even integration model matters a lot, right? And you as a company, you have to also operationally adjust with the the welcome changes there, and make the acquisition very, very successful. So Anita, these were the top 3 FAQs I wanted to share, right? So here I think I just complete my presentation.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. I think definitely it is very, very informative. And I know personally 1 or 2 companies who are really looking for, a merger or acquisition. But I think, like you said, there are not many people in the industry, and or maybe people are not aware that someone like you are there who can really help them. So this would be really, really valuable for smaller companies who are really looking at either, getting acquired or merging with a larger company. So thank you so much. I think it was a very interesting topic, and we're very glad that we had this in this session. And I'm sure this will really enlighten a lot of people, and maybe a lot of people may come to you to for help. So I'm sure you're there. Thank you so much. And it was wonderful having you here, sir.
Thank you, Anita. You and entire team for a very, very successful global lift and escalator event.
Thank
Very
you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Thank you to all the audience here who are listening from wherever they are. I would like to say that we have one more day to go tomorrow, where we are talking on various other topics like challenges and opportunity of procuring made India components. Then we have another one on developing a skilled workforce, challenges and opportunity. The other one is on standard fire rules across India, and also elevator industry as a preferred employer. And we have very eminent people, talking about various things, and they're sharing their experience. So I welcome you all tomorrow also to take part in all these sessions. Thank you so much and have a good evening.
Thank you, man. Bye bye.
Bye bye.